Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes!
Yes! The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it. Oh, what a goal! What a goal!
And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello, welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And yes, I don't have to bring up that stat that everybody hates me bringing up because, look, it's not a good stat to go over. And if you know what I'm talking about, then great. If you don't, well, I'm not going to bring it up. Go ahead and listen to the last couple episodes, and you guys will know the stat that I've constantly brought up on this podcast. So I'm glad. I'm glad my 2-1 NYCFC victory was incorrect. That scoreline was, as we all know, nowhere close to what I predicted. New York City didn't come close at all night to score a goal. The Union with the 1-0 victory. But look, I'm going to try to keep this episode very, very short compared to what I've done in the past. To save a long story short for you guys, with the website that I upload the podcast to, I could probably only upload 4 more episodes for the rest of the month of August until September, if I keep all the episodes within a 30-minute time frame. So that's what I'm going to try to do on this episode. Now, granted, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and pay extra money to get some more memory to upload more podcasts. But, you know, we're so close to September. If I can keep the episodes within 30 to 33 minutes, we can get 4 more episodes in until September. So that's what we're going to try to do. And the last thing before I just get into news and the game and questions, but no blunder of the week this week because there's a lot I want to get to within 30 minutes. But I will say blunder of the week. I know I make that segment kind of like a joke, a ha ha ha. Like it's funny to laugh at blunders, but blunder of the week, I'm going to bring up either next episode or the episode after that. Yeah, it's going to be a very, very serious blunder of the week. No joking. And maybe some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it happened, I think, a week ago. But I don't have time to do it this episode just because of everything I want to get to. So that is everything I want to say. But let's just go straight into the news. Yeah, so we're going to try and get through the news as fast as possible because there's a lot I want to talk about in the Philadelphia Union NYCFC game. You guys love some questions. I want to get to those questions, give you guys a chance to hear the post-game interview after the game. So yeah, I want to get to all that stuff. But number one, Olivier Mbaizo signs a contract extension that the Union said is a multi-year contract. They didn't say how long the contract's for. Now, normally when the Union give a contract extension, it's usually for 2 years and then a third year option. Mbaizo, he's 24 years old. He signed with the Union in 2018, where he spent the first couple seasons playing with Bethlehem Steel, the Union's USL team. And then finally, Mbaizo was getting chances last season, splitting time with Vegatis. And then this season, Mbaizo gets the starting job because Vegatis retires. And yeah, we finally get an attacking right back, as we all know. So I'm super happy to have Mbaizo on the team this season, starting at right back. And happy to have him here for a couple more seasons. And Ernst Tenner, he said, when we signed Olivier, we knew he had the tools to become a top defender in this league, and he has emerged as such. Our system requires fullbacks to contribute in the attack, defense, and transition, and Olivier's quickness and competitiveness make him a perfect fit for such a role. His continued growth and dedication made this a well-earned contract extension. Now, look, do I think Mbaizo is going to be here for that whole contract for however long it is? No, I don't. If you guys remember, a few months ago, Jim Curtin talked in a midweek press conference and talked about how Mbaizo was drawing interest from League One. And yeah, ultimately, I do think that is a league that Mbaizo probably ends up in at some point. I don't know if it's after the season or if he shows, okay, look, he can be a contributing, starting right back in MLS for 2 years in a row, then maybe a team from League One or maybe a team someplace else in Europe come in for him. But I don't think he'll see out the whole contract. I think this is just the union saying, look, you've played so well. The money that you were previously earning doesn't reflect how well you've played the season for us, doesn't show how much you mean to us. So look, we're going to give you some extra money because you played so well. And on the flip side of that, he signs a couple more years. That just means when the union sign him, that a team's going to have to pay a little bit extra money because Mbaizo signed a long-term deal. So the union are looking out for themselves. They're looking out for Mbaizo. And I think it was just the right move altogether. And super happy to see Mbaizo get rewarded for the great season he is having so far this season with the union. And then, according to Brian Serretta, he tweeted during the week expecting the Jack De Vries loan from Philadelphia Union to Venezia to be announced soon. Now, Jim Curtin was asked about that in his press conference, and he had no comment on the potential loan deal. But look, there's a guy who's been linked to Italy the last couple weeks. We know he is out of the concussion protocol. And now you got to go all the way back to 2020. Seems like it's so long ago, right? Or at least that's how I feel. Where you start to think about some of the time that Jack De Vries played. He looked okay for coming on when he came on as a sub, and I believe he started a game against NYCFC down in the MLS's back tournament. Now you really have anything really far back. But look, this is a guy that, regardless, we haven't seen a lot of with the Philadelphia Union. But when he was playing with the Bethlehem Steel, he was one of the best players on the team, not just attacker, but just overall best players on the team. And you knew that it was only a matter of time before he started getting chances with the Philadelphia Union. And he definitely would have played a lot more if the Union were in a proper league last season. And he would definitely have played a lot more this season if the Union's second team were in a proper league. But then he got a concussion. We all know that. How long have we been talking about that on Twitter, on this podcast? When's Jack De Vries going to come back? And look, guy has talent, but I think what helps him the most is that he has a Dutch passport, I believe it is. And so because of that, it makes it so much easier for him to go to Europe, for European teams to sign him, where he doesn't have to go through the whole visa process because he already has a passport to the Netherlands. And so I think this would only be a good move for him and the club. Because, look, if he does well in Venezia or if he goes someplace else, then a team can say, look, we're going to give you blah, blah, blah amount for Jack De Vries right now because he played so well for us. And then the Union are going to say, okay, well, add a sell-on clause there because whatever club signs him, I don't expect Jack De Vries to stay there for the rest of his career. So if he does well in Europe, that means that the Union are going to get more money than what they potentially expected. Maybe the Union thought, okay, before European teams come and ask about him, he's going to have to play some games with the Philadelphia Union, and then European teams will come for him. But look, if you think even farther back, it was rumored that teams wanted to sign Jack De Vries before he even signed with the Union's first team to begin with because they knew how talented he was. So teams in Europe know who Jack De Vries is, and if he goes to Venezia, does well, then I don't think we'll see him back in Philadelphia. But look, Jack needs to be playing, and Seria A is going to be a tough test for him, I think, where it's a super physical league. But again, I mean, players in America, they dream of playing European soccer. And so I don't think Jack cares where he's going in Europe. To go and play in Europe is going to be a huge dream of his. And we'll see if the Union announces sometime next week. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Don't forget that we still have about 9-10 days left until the European transfer window closes. So this move can definitely still happen, even though the MLS transfer window is closed. But the next thing I want to talk about is Kai Wagner. Now, Kai Wagner, before I talk about an interview he just did with a website in Germany, he was included in the Team of the Week again for his performance against NYCFC. So congratulations to Kai Wagner. And Andre Blake has now been called into the MLS All-Star game, joining Kai Wagner himself. So congratulations to Andre Blake. Well-deserved. Should have never been not included the first time when the roster was announced. So Andre Blake will be the third goalkeeper for the MLS. So we'll see if Andre gets any playing time. I just hope, he doesn't get injured. That's my big thing. Same with Kai Wagner. I hope these guys come back to us healthy, no injury problems, and we can look forward to the second half of our season with both of these guys on the team. But going back to the Kai Wagner interview he did with Sport 1 in Germany, Kai Wagner was asked about, again, his plans for going back to Europe. And this was the quote that Kai Wagner said to Sport 1 through Google Translation. Hopefully the translation worked pretty well. But this is what it said. It said, "For me, returning to Europe remains the goal. I'm being completely honest about that. After 3 years, it's time for me to come back too. But it has to be the right thing. But I don't want to put any more pressure on myself because I am very comfortable here in Philadelphia." And then he was asked about what does he mean by on the right thing. He said, "I want to be really up for it and know that I can develop myself further and get playing time." Now look, Kai Wagner and his wife, they both got their green cards, and that's huge. And I think it's good for Kai to say that, yeah, him and his wife, their young son, they're happy here. And if you guys follow them, Kai Wagner on social media, his wife on social media, it doesn't matter. They're always reposting stuff in each other's stories. But they're always hanging out with players, with Jacob Glesnes, with Ali, with Daniel Gazdag, with insert player here, Casper. These guys get along so well with so many different families on this team. And I think that's huge just for chemistry on the team that, yeah, it's our jobs to play, but we actually have real meaningful relationships outside of the pitch where we, like playing with these guys, but we go out of our way to hang out with these families because we like them so much. And Kai Wagner is the one player that I do expect him to eventually go to Europe. I don't know when. Look, I've talked about it on this podcast before, the interview he did back in November where he said he wanted to leave in the winter transfer window to go back to Europe. And then he said in the summertime at the latest. Well, obviously he is still here. And like I just said about the whole Jack De Vries potential loan to Seria A, yes, the European window is still open. I don't think Kai Wagner would leave in the next 9 to 10 days unless a massive offer came in for him, which I can't see yet. But it's going to be a sad day when Kai Wagner leaves the Union. I think that Kai Wagner is one of the best left backs MLS as a whole has ever seen. Just what he does offensively. Now, look, Glenn Crooks, you guys heard him talking about it on the podcast where fullbacks now, the positions involved where they're asked to do a lot more attacking, not so much defending like they used to back in the day. But Kai Wagner can do both. He can defend very, very well in one-on-one situations. He can put a great cross when he's attacking. He has great acceleration, great pace. Things you look for outside backs. Kai Wagner, since he's been here in 2019, he's been one of the Union's best players. And I think a couple months ago, I think I talked about is Kai Wagner, one of the best Philadelphia Union players of all time. Not best left back, because look, the Union have only had two good left backs, Jordan Harvey. You got to go way back to think of Jordan Harvey. And then Kai Wagner. No, sorry, Ray Gaddis. You did your best playing as left back, but it's Kai Wagner, and then it drops off massively, and then Jordan Harvey, and then it really drops off. So not only do I think Kai Wagner is the best left back the Union have ever had, not only do I think he's one of the best left backs in all of MLS all time, I think you can make an argument that Kai Wagner is a top 5 player to ever play for the Philadelphia Union. Now, I know it's hard to compare the different eras of the Philadelphia Union where early on the Union didn't have a lot of success. So how can you really rate the players back then where it seemed like half the time the Union didn't know what formation fit, what player is the best, so they're just trying different things, where they definitely had talented players. But then you look near the end of 2018, definitely in 2019, where Ernst Tenner is all over this team. They say, let's run a 4-4-2 diamond. This is the way we're going to play. They bring in the right players for the 4-4-2 diamond, and everybody on this team looks amazing, right? So you can definitely make the argument that the 2019, the 2020 team, the 2021 team would destroy any previous Philadelphia Union team just because, look, they brought in the right players for the system. They know the system they want to play. And maybe a lot of that is why I think Kai Wagner is a top 5 player, just because of the success that he's had with the Union the last 3 seasons. The last 3 seasons have been the most successful ever for the Union. So a lot of that stuff is a lot of recency bias, I feel like. But I do think that you can make a very, very, very strong argument that Kai Wagner is a top 5 Union player of all time. Definitely top 10. I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that. But yeah, congratulations for Kai Wagner for winning Team of the Week. And hopefully, it's going to happen. So I'm not going to say hopefully Kai doesn't leave us, because I do think it's eventually going to leave us. And in this interview, I liked it. I guess I'll go ahead and retweet the post too, so you guys can go ahead and read the article for yourself at FreeKickPod on Twitter. But man, just enjoy Kai Wagner while we have him. A great player, and it's going to be a sad day when he leaves the Union eventually. So just appreciate him for however much longer he is here with the Union. Now let's go ahead and talk about the Philadelphia Union versus NYCFC. Like we all know, the Union won that game 1-0. And just not even focusing on the play on the field, but I thought the energy, the noise was fantastic on Wednesday night, especially when you consider, like I said, it was a Wednesday night game. That place isn't fully packed on Wednesday nights, but I believe they said that it was a little bit over 15,000 fans there on Wednesday night, which I definitely believe. Like, I could not believe it, especially with the weather that they were calling for. Is it going to rain? Is it not? Yeah, we had a little bit of a light drizzle, but that noise, the atmosphere was fantastic in the stadium. And I believe Jim Curtin mentioned after the game how, yeah, the fans' energy really pushed the players on to get that 1-0 result, to get that goal. And this is what I said last week on Twitter Spaces, where, yes, the Union are down 2-0 against Club America, but we make a difference. Your noise makes a difference. It gives players an extra motivation to make that extra run to keep pushing forward. And if we can bring that noise, every single person in that stadium, I don't care if you don't know the chants or not. Look, the stadium was doing the wave, and I'm not a fan of doing the wave at soccer stadiums. I'm not a fan of the wave in general, but I'm not going to tell people, oh, don't do the wave, because if you were at that game at the night, that is the first time I can think of that people in every single family section got up, were excited, they were loud, doing something so silly as the wave. That brought noise, that brought energy into the stadium, and I do believe that because the whole stadium was being loud, whether or not they were doing chants, whether or not it was because of the wave, it doesn't matter. There was noise in the stadium. And because of that, it pushed the players on to get this 1-0 victory over NYCFC. No, Club America isn't NYCFC. They're a lot better than NYCFC. They're a lot better than every single team in MLS. But if fans come out Wednesday night, September 15th, and make noise, be loud, pack Subaru Park out, and blue and gold, but there is going to be blue and gold, and I think a lot of it's going to be not Philadelphia Union fans. We have a chance. We definitely have a chance, and we will definitely talk about that game when it gets closer. But I was just really, really impressed by the noise in the stadium for a Wednesday night game. And Matt Ralph, he came out with a great stat on Twitter and said the Union, they are 5 wins, 1 draw, and 0 losses in all competitions on Wednesday nights so far this season. And then Jim Curtin was asked about that in his Friday press conference when he was talking about the Montreal game. He was asked about the Union's form on Wednesday nights. And according to Jim Curtin, the Union had the best Wednesday night record out of all MLS teams since 2018. That's pretty impressive, especially when you look at the Union only getting 3 days and then they have another game. So they're not getting any rest. So, sorry. It's like 2 days of rest and then they have another game. It's ridiculous that the Union have all these Wednesday games, but yet something that Jim Curtin was talking about before we got into the heart of the season, how he wasn't happy with playing 8 Wednesday games, how it's unfair that they have the most Wednesday games out of every MLS team. And look, the 5 wins, 1 draw, 0 losses. So for all that complaining, the team does a really, really good job of getting the players to recover in time to be ready for that Wednesday game after they just played a game on the weekend. So, yeah, well done to the coaching staff to get these players ready, and well done to the players for showing up on Wednesday night games. And another thing I want to bring up is Mike Thomas. He brought up a really good point on Twitter, and he said, most composed 90 minutes all season, ? And look, I think so, honestly. NYCFC, they dominated possession in the first half with it being 62-38 New York City. And I know possession doesn't mean everything, but most of the time, New York City, they spent the first half with that possession in our half. They were specifically attacking down the right side of the field against Alvis Powell, who is still coming off that hamstring injury. And he played 89 minutes on the night. And that's something I said with Glenn Crooks on the last episode, where I said, look, here's a key for a victory for NYCFC. Attack down the right side of the field with Alvis Powell playing 60 minutes against Club America, where they probably didn't think he was going to play that game at all. He's still recovering from a hamstring injury. He's not 100% fully fit. Attack down that side. And honestly, you would not know that he was not fully fit on the night against New York City. They sent so many players to attack down the right side of the field, different players, just to see if they could break him down. And nobody could get past him. He had 6 interceptions, 1 clearance, 3 tackles, 9 out of 14 ground duels won. Yeah, he didn't do anything offensively, but defensively, he was solid. You guys have heard me on the podcast. You guys have talked about it on social media. Jim Curtin's talked about it in press conferences where, the last couple of weeks, Mbaizo's been the reason we've conceded early goals. And for everything that he does offensively, we love it. But defensively, sometimes he has some mistakes. But Alvis Powell reminded me so much of Ray Gaddis on Wednesday night defensively I don't believe that he's fully fit yet. I think that's why we saw him making limited runs going for it. But to go 89 minutes against NYCFC, to have players like Thiago, Shirati, Castellanos going at him and handling them so well. 6 interceptions, 1 clearance, 3 tackles, 9 out of 14 ground duels won. An unbelievable night from Alvis Powell. And you can make a really, really strong case that Alvis Powell was the man of the match, but the player that I thought was the best on the night was Jose Martinez. And look, before I talk about Jose, Jim Curtin talks about it all the time, and this is what I absolutely love about this team. The players in Jim say it all the time, next man up mentality. And it's so true, though. We've seen Leon step up at the 6 and 8 when El Brujo and Jamiro were both missing. Not at the same time, but they both missed time, and Jamiro, I guess has played mostly as a 10, but Leon's played at the 8 while Martinez played at the 6, and when Martinez isn't there, then Flock would go to the 6. Leon Flock stepped up. Joe Bendick stepped up when Andre Blake was away on international duty, and Matt Freese had to miss a game because of a red card. We saw it Wednesday night with Alvis Powell. He put in a great defensive performance, and I really hope that caught the attention of all fans. But then, just going on, I thought this was your typical Philadelphia Union performance when they're super solid defensively. 11 interceptions, 14 clearances, 8 tackles, and 1 block shot between the back 4 of Alvis, Kai Wagner, Jacob Glesnes, and Jack Elliott. Andre Blake wasn't threatened at all, But when NYC did have shots, Andre came out with 2 saves. And that's really hard for a goalkeeper where they don't get much action. But then when a team does finally get a shot away towards goal, you're hoping because your goalkeeper hasn't seen a lot of action that those shots aren't going to trouble him. And the 2 shots that New York City had, Andre Blake saved them really well, and they weren't troubling for him. And I think a lot of times people want to see this team score a ton of goals, which they can, but they are not built that way at all. They're built from the defense forward. And how do you build a successful soccer team? Where do you first want to look when you're a brand new GM? It doesn't matter where you are in the world. When you're trying to build a soccer team, what positions are you looking for to make the strongest on your team? Where are the strongest areas of your team? Where do they need to be located? And the strongest areas of your team need to be through the middle, the spine of your team. You build a team with a quality goalkeeper. You build a team with 2 quality center backs. And then you add someone in front of them, a holding midfielder, a defensive midfielder, whatever you want to call them. You add somebody that's going to protect the center backs. And Jose Martinez, El Brujo, had a fantastic game. It might have been his best game ever in a Philadelphia Union uniform. The block shot that he had on Medina in the second half of the game, that was a huge block by Jose Martinez. Medina had space. He had some room to shoot. And Jose comes flying in, gets 100% on the ball. Fisher doesn't have to go to VAR because he knows it, that he gets all of the ball. Unlike down in Mexico, when he tells the ref, have a look at this. We're not going to talk about that, though, too much, or anymore. I don't want to. But what a tackle by Jose Martinez in the second half to see him put everything on the line, to time that perfectly. You have to get that 100% because we know Drew Fisher loves pointing to the spot. 3 block shots, 10 out of 13 ground duels won, 2 interceptions, 3 tackles, and 15 ball recoveries on the night. 15 recoveries. My word. What a night that Jose Martinez had in the middle of the field for the Philadelphia Union. Worked his tail off offensively to pass the ball forward, to try to get something going with Sergio Santos and Casper, Daniel Gazdag, and Corey Burke. But defensively, that's the best I've ever seen him play. No yellow card. He has been so disciplined since he got his last yellow card. This guy, it's crazy that he wasn't linked with more moves to Europe just because of how well he's been playing ever since he got his last yellow card. This guy has been on fire, or really, since he came back from the Copa America with Venezuela. This guy's been a changed man. And look, Jim Curtin said he was going to have a talk to him when he had that slap on the face to Castellanos. And man, what a player Jose Martinez is. What a player. You talk about players that Ernst Henner has found that's a diamond in the rough. Who would have thought? A guy from Venezuela that was, I guarantee you, not on many teams' radars in MLS. Maybe some teams in South America, but I don't think a lot of teams. To find a player like Jose Martinez where you bring in sexy season, Orvats, to be your number 6. And Martinez is that guy. He takes the spot from him. He wins the job. Didn't take it. He wins the job. Wow, what a night El Brujo had on the night. And look, there was one moment on when New York City pressed Brujo when he had the ball and he gave it away, but he recovered nicely after that mistake. That's the only bad thing I'll say is sometimes when teams press him, he's not sure if he wants to dribble out of it because he's good enough to dribble out of those situations, or sometimes teams put enough pressure on him and they get a body on him and he turns the ball over. But other than that one moment early on, he was fantastic on the night, player of the match. And the last thing I want to say about just players is Ali Bedoya. Great to see him get the goal. Everybody writes him off, says he's not the same anymore, that his legs are gone. Bedoya shows that he still offers something to this team with those late runs into the box. I've not seen anybody on this team make those runs that Ali does. And he gets the goal from working his tail off. Every single game he works his tail off. And look, Ali Bedoya, he still has something to offer. Just we wish Jim would take him off earlier when you can tell that he's gassed. Because from the start of the game until the end of the game, this guy is working as hard as he can. And that is a true captain out there, so it's great to see Ali get the goal. Now, real quick, I just want to review my keys to the game. Number one, I said last episode, limit NYC's touches in the penalty area. Like I said, they led, or still lead, all MLS teams at the time when I recorded last episode. They had 569 touches in the penalty area. Tati Castellanos led all MLS players with touches in the penalty area with 143. Number one, that was a pass, because 4 touches in the penalty area for Tati Castellanos. And what's even more impressive, he had 31 touches overall. 3 in the defensive third, 13 in the middle third. The Union absolutely dominated defensively. I know I gave you guys stats early on about how well the defense played, but to limit New York City's best player that bad, where you couldn't even tell he was on the field because he was coming all the way to the defensive third to collect the ball for New York City, to go all the way to the top of the midfield to collect the ball, because Martinez, because Alves Pau, because Kai Wagner were not giving him any space at all. To give him 4 touches, where I just said he had 143 touches in the penalty area, to only have him get 4 touches in the penalty area. Fantastic job by the Philadelphia Union. That might have been the best performance all season defensively. Well done to all 4 of them in the back. And I hope that performance motivated fans not to give up on this team, because that is how the Philadelphia Union are built, is to shut out teams' best players, and that's exactly what they did against New York City's Tati Castellanos. Number 2, you got to play the long ball over the top, I said. We saw that happen against NYC and Inter Miami, where Inter Miami were trying to hit long balls over the top for Higuain, and it worked, just he's slow. I guess it's a sort of pass. The Union had 36 out of 77 long balls. They played a ton of long balls, and not a lot of them got, but at least the idea was there. So I'll give a slight pass. And then point 3, I'll be strong defensively in the second half. I'm hype, if you guys cannot tell, because in my opinion, that was the best defensive performance we have seen by the Philadelphia Union this season. Hopefully it continues today. When you guys listen to this podcast, we'll be playing Montreal. But the last 15 minutes of the game, 2 block shots, 8 out of 9 tackles won, 3 clearances. The last 15 minutes of the game, I told you guys, where New York City has scored 22 goals against the Philadelphia Union in 13 games in MLS. And 6 of those goals came in the last 15 minutes of the game. The last 15 minutes of the game, I repeat, 2 block shots, 8 out of 9 tackles won, 3 clearances. It doesn't get more dominating than that. Well done to, again, just everybody defensively. What a performance these guys put in. So many people on this team do the dirty work, and man, I love a great defensive performance, and that's exactly what we saw by the Philadelphia Union against New York City. But look, we have some questions to get to. I have, I think, 4 clips to play, because the number one question I'm sure a lot of people have on the mind is Jamiro Monteiro back for good now that his family is here? I'm sure everybody's seen this on social media, where Ernst Tanner came out and said, the transfer market is fluid, and while interest remains for Jamiro, no offers in the transfer window came to fruition. It was decided it was best for both sides to have him reintegrate with the team for training and matches at this time while options are still being explored. Now, I'll go ahead and play every single Jamiro part that was in the press conference after the game against Montreal. So, number 1, here is Jim Curtin on Jamiro Monteiro rejoining the squad.
Yeah, everybody knows Jamiro's talents, what we've won with Jamiro. So again, there's always interest in players. It's a complicated process, and then the transfer window is always a fluid one. Jamiro gives everything when he's on the field for us. Gave a great performance. He's trained the past couple days with us and has been reintegrated with the group, which is only makes us stronger. So again, great to have him back. And again, in this game, things can change quickly. So when we have him here, obviously we're very happy, and he's a special talent.
And then right after that, Jim was asked, well, what are the chances that he stays the whole season?
Yeah, it's to be determined. Our hope is obviously we want to put the best team on the field at all times. And look, we're a better team when Jamiro's here. So we'll see what happens, obviously, but he gave a great performance tonight, helped us out in a really big spot, having had a couple, weeks of training on his own and staying in shape. It's always different when you get thrown into a real game, and I thought he did great.
And now here's Jamiro Monteiro on his thoughts of being put back with the squad.
Like, my family is finally back, so that gives me a very good feeling, good push for me. I think for a player that live far from house, you always need somebody. You always need somebody. So my daughter, my wife, they are back, and I'm happy that they are back. It feels it was a long week, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to play for this club. As long as I play for this club, I will always give 200%. So I'm not busy with the transfer thing. So about that, you can ask my agent or something. But as long as I'm here, I will do everything and work hard for this club. So yeah.
And then finally, Ali Bedoya was asked about Jamiro Monteiro rejoining the squad.
Yeah, look, we all know how talented he is. His technical ability to perhaps get out of tight spaces and play that final ball, and his offensive prowess. So it's nice to have him back. Another personality on the team. So good. I think, like I said, everybody always deals with things that people don't always see. So. It's tough for maybe some fans to maybe understand that part of the game, but I think he's somebody who definitely, when he's on the field, adds another dimension to our team. So it's nice to have him back, definitely. And, it's just when things like this happen, it's just about maintaining your focus, that next man up mentality that we've always preached here at the Union. But like I said, I think it's, obviously he's been away, I don't know, what is it now, the third week. So for him to come back, his first game, I'm sure, maybe he was huffing and puffing a bit there. It's not easy to come into a game like this when it's intense, but it's good to have him back.
And so that question came from @Cody_010. And look, you guys heard from Jamiro, then you heard from Jim Curtin, and then you heard from Ali Bedoya. And the one thing that you did not hear Ali or Jim Curtin say is Jamiro is a bad player. He's a terrible player. No. Everybody knows the talent of Jamiro Monteiro, and they know how much he means to this team. And adding Jamiro only makes his team better. Jim Curtin said it. Ali knows it. The players know it. You can make a case. It's either between Andre Blake and Jamiro Monteiro for being the best player on this team. And watching that clip, now I know you guys were listening to it, but watching him give that press conference, he was super happy, super duper happy that his family's here in America with him, living with him. And it's got to be so hard. And like Ali said, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know what players are dealing with. We just see whatever they post on social media, and then we see what they do on the field. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that none of us will know about. And will we ever get the story about why Jamiro Monteiro hinted in a transfer request? Probably not. Yeah, you can speculate. And my 3 reasonings why he probably hinted in a transfer request, not including the whole wanting to see his family thing. I think by far and most that was the number one thing. But I think 1, he's probably looking for a pay raise. 2, he's probably upset about being subbed out against Miami. And 3, he wants to play the number 10. Now, going back to number 10, you guys heard me and Matt Ralph talk about this, where I don't think this is too much of an issue because Jamiro and Brendan, so many times that these guys interchanged in 2020 and 2019 between the 10 and the 8. I don't think that's a problem at all. You're constantly going to have players rotating, playing where on paper they're not supposed to be playing, just because you're following about where the ball is going. You're following what's happening on the field, not sticking to your position. So I don't think it's too much about playing as the number 10. Being substituted against Inter Miami, I think, yeah, that's annoying. A lot of players get annoyed, right? Casper and Ali Bedoya, I think, are the 2 most emotional guys on the field for the Union. Kai Wagner, you can put him up there as well. Their body language, I think you can read a lot about these guys by just watching their body language. When things don't go their way, they're shouting, they're pointing to the ground, They're giving it to the ref. They're shrugging it off with their shoulders. So these guys are very, very vocal with their body language. And so Jamiro getting mad about that whole getting subbed out against Miami, I don't think it was that much. But what I do think it probably is I feel like Jamiro feels like he's underpaid. And I have no problem giving Jamiro Monteiro $2.73 million a year. I feel like that would be a fair offer. I think he's making like $1.4 million. I have to go back and check. He's definitely not making $2 million a year. But when you're one of the best players in MLS, definitely the best player for the Philadelphia Union, yes, you can make an argument, like I said, for Andre Blake. I'm sure Jamiro Monteiro feels like he deserves to be paid a little bit more money. And I have no problem giving him that. And I don't know how the Union feel, and that's just me guessing that I think this might be the whole issue. Like you heard Jamiro say, he's not focused on the transfer at all. If you have questions about that, talk to his agent. He said he's going to give 200% to the Philadelphia Union. And I absolutely believe that. Just watching his emotions, being so happy, smiling, talking about his family being here in Philadelphia, I think that takes such a huge weight off of his shoulder. And he'll be 28 in November, and I do think that he has aspirations to go back to Europe to prove himself one more time. Just like I think Kai Wagner does, Jacob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, Daniel Gazdag, Mbaizo, everybody on this team I think wants to play back in Europe or experience playing in Europe. And so will Jamiro be here in the next couple of days? I don't know. I think Ernst Tenner probably looked and tried his best to shop Jamiro Monteiro, but Ernst Tenner was not going to get lowballed for Jamiro Monteiro. He knows Jamiro's worth. And yeah, when a player says he wants to be transferred, when he hands in a transfer request, yeah, that takes away a lot of leverage. But Ernst Tenner is not going to say, okay, yeah, you can have him for $1 million. No, not at all. The Union aren't going to take a loss on this deal. And you got to factor in, because he's not a homegrown player, any sale that the Union make, MLS gets 5% of that. So the Union don't want to take a loss at all when selling Jamiro Monteiro. So that is my thoughts. And at Nola Hammers, the second part of his question he had, the first he said, how do you rate Gazdag's performance? Does Jamiro walk back into the next 11 against Montreal? I don't think we see him start just because he hasn't been training with the team as often as everybody else. So I think we'll see him sub on maybe a little bit earlier than when he subbed on against New York City. But Jim could say, okay, Jamiro, yeah, you're ready to go back and start again. So that's a tough one for me. I think eventually he will come back into the 11 if he's still here. I think he will be here still till the end of the season, I think. But I don't think he goes into the starting 11 against Montreal. I think he will eventually start. And I don't see why him and Daniel Gazdag can't switch between the 10 and the 8. I think they can. And speaking of Daniel Gazdag, like I said, you asked, how do you rate Gazdag's performance against New York City? And this is the thing. I know I said it on Twitter Spaces when you asked the question. And a lot of people, I still see a lot of people bashing Daniel Gazdag. And I'm going to defend this guy until I get blue in the face. 50 games played and counting for Daniel Gazdag this season between his time in Hungary, World Cup qualifying with Hungary, the Europa League qualifying matches, the Euro Nations with Hungary, and his time with the Union between MLS games and CONCACAF Champions League. 50 plus games playing. That is a ton of games played on your knees. And I will keep bringing up this point. Name me 5 players that have come into MLS midway through the season and have set the world on fire. I think it would be pretty difficult to do. And for sure, the Union haven't had any success with that. Yeah, you can argue Ali Bedoya when he came over from Nantes. But other than Ali, I don't think the Union have had anybody come over midway through the season that has set the world on fire. And I don't think Daniel Gazdag is going to, because 50-plus games is a ton of games to play on your knees. Remember, he didn't play with Hungary in the Euros. He definitely would have played. They were desperate for players to get out of the group of death. Daniel definitely would have played, but he had swelling in his knees. Nobody knew exactly why, other than the fact that, it's probably because he's played a ton of games so far this season. Not a lot of players play that many games in a season. And you look at it, Daniel's going to play over 60 games this season in a full season. So this guy deserves a well-deserved break. And you look at his game against New York City, 24 touches, 14 in the attacking third. The Union were getting him touches where he needed to get touches. That is great. 2 out of 2 dribbles, 6 out of 12 successful pressures. Remember, a successful pressure or a pressure is gaining possession of the ball within 5 seconds of the press. And then he was 8 out of 15 on passes. So it wasn't great passing the ball on the night. But at least he is getting in the right areas. Again, 11 games he's played with Union. 12 games he's played so far with Union. He's still getting used with his teammates. So whatever he does this season is a plus. If he doesn't set the world on fire, I'm fine with that. You can ask questions about Daniel Gazdag not performing next season. When he gets a full off season, when he gets a rest in the winter. And this is just not the one person. This is to everybody that's bashing Daniel Gazdag. Be realistic about this. Like, he's a good player, but he's not going to set the world on fire like people expect him to. And you've got to be realistic. 50-plus games. It's a ton of games to have on your knees. And fingers crossed he doesn't get an injury. Fingers crossed. The medical staff for the Union, they are great at keeping players healthy. But yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. I don't want to jinx it. I don't want to jinx an injury. So, that's my thoughts on Daniel Gazdag. I thought we did good to get him into spaces where he needs to be. His passing was a little bit off with his teammates. Yeah, people argued, he turned the ball over 13 times, I think, on the night. But the world's best players turn the ball over. It happens. So, whatever we get out of Daniel, it's a plus for me. I think goals will come. I think assists will continue to come for Daniel. He has 3 assists for the Union. And he's played, like I said, 11 games in MLS, 12 overall with Union. Still getting used with his teammates. So, I'm fine with how he played. And when Jamiro gets added back regularly to the starting 11, I have no problem with Jamiro and Daniel switching between the 8 and the 10. And I don't know, maybe Daniel wants to play as the 8 because when the Union announced the signing and he did his press conference, he said that the 8 is his more natural position, even though the Union brought him in as a 10. So that is my thoughts on Daniel Gazdag and Jamiro Monteiro. Hopefully I answered your questions. Hopefully I gave you guys something to think about. But I know I went way over than 30 minutes, so I'll have to get creative with what I want to do for a future episode. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on social media, follow @FreeKickPod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out the website, thefreekickpodcast.com. Wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. And hopefully the Union play well against Montreal. I think they will. Hopefully they can build momentum. Like I said, we're in the second half of the season for MLS. They're in 4th place, I believe it is. Nashville dropping points was huge for us. New England, they continue to find ways to win without Carlos Heel. Even though I said I don't believe the hype, they're finding ways. So congratulations to them. And Bruce Arena really has his guys playing well without their star player. And it takes a lot to grind out results. And they were losing that game to DC United at one point, 1-0. And to come back and score 3 unanswered goals and to get a red card takes a lot for a team to play as well as New England have. And I don't know. I think talent-wise, I think New York City has better players, but it doesn't matter, right? The Union don't have these sexy players. They don't have, on paper, you don't think they have the most talented players. What is a star player? We say it all the time. It's the team. And that's what it appears to be for New England as well. Everybody knows their job. Everybody knows what they need to do to win games without Carlos Heel. And they continue to do it and just blow away with it in the Eastern Conference. But hopefully the Union can keep picking up points and putting pressure on New England, on New York City, on Nashville, and Orlando. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.